right. Well, we're going to get right into it. So a couple weeks ago, Anthropic had your Code with Claude event. You launched Claude 4. And you also said something that kind of flew under the radar about kind of pivoting away from chatbots a little bit, more towards these agentic AI coding systems. Can you talk to me about that decision and how agents and AI coding assistants might be more aligned with Anthropic's mission?
Yeah, so I guess when we first developed Claude back in 2022, the motivation for us, we were just a research company, we didn't have a product, was to build a dialogue agent because we figured a tremendous amount of sort of what we do can be encapsulated by talking to someone, asking them to do things, and sort of seeing how that goes. And that obviously turned into Claude, which is a chatbot. You can go to claude.ai and talk to it. But I think the vision was always that as AI advances, gets better and better, the challenge would be to have AI do tasks that take longer and longer, are more sophisticated. And fundamentally, I think the way that we get things done isn't just by giving you the answer, but it's by using tools to go out in the world, learn the information you need to do the task, iterate. Like if you're a coder, you write code, you run the code, you see if it works. If you're like me, it doesn't work the first time, and you have bugs. You see what those bugs are, though, and you fix them. And so I think that just the natural growth in AI capabilities and sort of AI utility comes from AI agents that can do more and more for you. And so I feel like a paradigm where you just ask a question, get an answer, and you're done, like it just feels very limiting. And so it just isn't kind of the focus that we see going forward.
Right, but I think a lot of your competitors like OpenAI and Google are kind of in this race to get this massive AI chatbot platform, like, to where people will come for their first stop on the internet, kind of to replace Google or maybe even social media. Some of them are kind of thinking very big picture with these consumer apps. And it doesn't feel like that's where Anthropic is competing.
Yeah, I would say that to a large extent, we're trying to help businesses and individuals sort of integrate AI and use AI in the most useful ways possible. I think that having a static platform like that does feel a little bit limiting. That said, I don't think we know where AI is headed. So I think giving developers tools to sort of integrate AI, use it in a lot of different ways, feels like the way forward. I think Claude Code is I think, a cool example of that. We first built that as an internal tool that engineers and researchers at Anthropic were using to use Claude to make themselves more productive. Then we sort of shipped it externally. And I think obviously the main use is developers, but I even see people sometimes using Claude Code to do things that are surprising, like just like almost like an operating system or something. And so I think we're all experimenting with what the best way to use AI is, and I think we're just going to keep experimenting and hopefully keep empowering developers to experiment and build with Claude.
And on the topic of Claude Code, I mean, you guys have really emerged as a leader in the AI coding space. Your AI models have really shot apps like Cursor to great fame. They've really benefited from using your models. But now with Claude Code, it feels like there's some tension between Anthropic and these AI coding applications. Are you competing with these companies that are powered by your models?
I think the way that I think about a lot of our business is, I mean, a lot of it's built on the API. We really want our customers to be as successful as possible. I think that one reason why as I said, like we were playing with Claude Code internally, one reason we decided, we'll ship this, we'll make this public, was that it felt like it was at least a demonstration of how far you could push agentic capabilities, and that's something that we were experimenting with and leaning into on the research side. I think we really, our goal isn't to compete with our customers. Our goal is just to sort of make sure that people are exploring the possibilities with AI. And I always encourage people to sort of experiment with building applications, uses of AI that don't quite work, because I mean, we founded Anthropic because we expected AI to keep getting better and better and better. We thought there were safety questions, concerns around that, and that's why we're so focused on safety. But because of that trajectory, because AI is getting better so quickly, I think a lot of things that don't quite work with the model right now are going to work in 3 months or 6 months, and it's a way of really kind of getting ahead of the curve.
Well, one of your customers, Windsurf, was not happy with you this week because they said that Anthropic pulled back some of the direct access that they had to their models. Windsurf is like Cursor, competitor, but it's much smaller. They were also reportedly acquired by OpenAI. What's the logic behind kind of pulling that direct access from Windsurf?
Yeah, so my understanding is that with Windsurf, you can actually bring your own API key and continue to use Claude.
Right, but it's much more expensive and like complicated. It's my understanding of that.
Yeah, it might be more complicated. I mean, I think as you alluded to, I mean, I think that we've really been quite constrained in terms of supply. We're hoping to greatly increase the sort of availability of tokens. We want to keep them flowing for Claude over the next couple of months. But we really just are trying to enable our customers who are kind of going to sustainably be working with us in the future.
You don't think they're going to be sustainably working with you in the future?
Well, I mean, you said it, not me. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think it would be odd for us to be sort of selling Claude to OpenAI.
That would be weird. But I think that deal hasn't been announced yet, and I think in the short term, I think what a lot of startups and kind of developers saw was that Anthropic can kind of just cut off access, because maybe your startup isn't competing with Anthropic today, but maybe in the future you will. And it feels like AI coding is one of those spaces where you guys are investing a lot. So I think about your relationship with Cursor, which is a much bigger business and really relies on Anthropic, but they're building their own models now. So how do you look at that relationship? I mean, it feels like that is something that might come to a head in the future too.
I guess I don't expect it to. I mean, obviously, I mean, there are many companies training their own models for all sorts of different purposes. I expect we'll be working with Cursor for a long time. I hope to be. They've been a great customer, great partner, great tester of new Claude models. So yeah, I really think that if you look at us versus a lot of other AI companies, I mean, we're quite invested in our API business. We want people to be able to build with and on top of Claude, and we're definitely not trying to limit that. We're not trying to compete with our customers. We're trying to empower them.
Got it. And I'm really curious about kind of, you were a really influential person in the scaling laws paper. You were a key author on a key scaling law paper. And I think there's been a lot of questions in the last year about the lasting power of the scaling laws, of how much compute and data you can throw at these models and keep getting gains out of them, or how much we're going to rely on reasoning. Where do you see kind of the value of continuing to add compute and data to AI models today? Yeah,
so I think scaling is continuing to pay dividends on both the sort of pre-training and RL side. We've seen a lot of advances in the last year or two on RL. I mean, maybe people here are all experts, but I mean, the way we train AI models is that we do pre-training, where we teach models to imitate and understand, predict the next word in human written text and other data. And then we fine-tune them with RL, both with human feedback and with AI being trained to do things like write code that passes tests. I think both of these show clean scaling laws. The work that I did and many others contributed to maybe 5 or 6 years ago now was on the pre-training side, and it showed really clear empirical trends where if you make AI models bigger, give them more data, more compute, then they get better. I think that's continuing. Now there's a question of, is there enough compute? Is there enough data? I think for now there is, but I do think that eventually those will be constraints, certainly data. On the RL side, you can go a lot further, and I think RL is much less fully sort of even close to fully tapped. And on the RL side, you're really training models with reinforcement learning to reinforce models doing useful, safe stuff and not doing things that not making mistakes. And so very obviously, that's the kind of thing that you're going to want to keep scaling because you want to make AI more useful, not just better at autocomplete. And so I think that there's a lot of evidence from the last 5 or 6 years that you can get clean kind of log linear scaling with compute in RL. And so I think that's a major source of investment, as well as basically using new techniques like advancements on constitutional AI and more complex agentic environments to train AI to get better and better.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've seen with the pre-training scaling, like the bigger models that have been fed more data, I've seen that they're better at creative writing and they're better at like some of these kind of hard to measure tasks, but like on the core benchmarks, like they are not as like stellar as some of the reasoning models. And I'm curious, from your perspective, like, do you think that by scaling reasoning, that is a reliable path to get to AGI? It feels like that's much better at getting to specific like tasks and skills.
Yeah, I guess the way that I think about it is that at least for hard problems, I think that reasoning is obviously a great way to get more capability out of the model. You give it more compute at test time and you can get a better response. So I definitely think that that's going to be an ingredient. I think that in some ways, like agentic capabilities might be even more important. I mean, maybe they're just both important in the sense that I think that when we do tasks, when we do work, there isn't a lot of the time that we step back and we like think for an hour about what to do next. I think a lot of what we do is we experiment, we try something, we see what our environment tells us, like, did we make a mistake? Did we write code that passes tests? Does like the paragraph that we wrote make sense, or can we make it better? So I tend to think of scaling sort of agency, search, tool use as like really important for that as well. But definitely I think that reasoning can allow us to take models that aren't necessarily at the frontier as pre-trained models, but make them better at hard problems, solving hard problems.
I mean, part of the problem with the pre-training scaling is that like we're just getting so all of the AI labs are getting so compute restrained right now. It's hard to kind of level up by another factor of 10. How compute restrained are you guys today? I mean, going back to what you said with Windsurf, it's like you guys don't have unlimited compute. So
I think it's scaling very rapidly, right? I mean, I think AI is on and has been on an exponential for a while, and I think that's continuing. And obviously, you see that in the news with sort of the fundraisers in AI going up and up and up, and that's because the value unlocked by AI as AI models get smarter is scaling with it. There are more and more use cases. Customers can use AI to integrate AI more and more. That means that the feedback loop is even faster. So generally speaking, I mean, we're always, like every year, increasing our supply of compute by a significant integer multiple. That's just continuing and continuing. We've just basically started to unlock the capacity on our new Trainium 2 cluster, which is really, really big and continues to scale. So that's what's going to allow us to unlock more compute for customers and for sort of training the next generation of like Claude 5.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned Trainium too. So I want to talk about some of your partners. Amazon is a big one. I want to, talk to you about how you're thinking about Alexa and kind of the ways that Claude might appear in kind of interfaces that are not your own. Like it seems like Claude is powering some parts of Alexa Plus, their new Alexa. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of announced at a joint event that Claude is contributing to a lot of Amazon products, including Alexa. Generally, I mean, as we were discussing earlier, like we're excited about Claude being able to power all kinds of products from many different companies and developers.
Yeah. There's been some rumors that Apple might work with you guys. Do you think that'll happen at WWC next week?
I mean, I can't comment on ongoing work, but yeah, I mean, we're always open to working with a lot of different companies, a lot of different partners. We work with Google as well.
Google's great too. Apple, though, I really don't like talking to Siri, and I do like talking to Claude. I would love to talk to Claude, and I'm sure I'm not the first person who's raised this to you. But I mean, I'm curious, like when you look at, working with people like Apple, like Amazon, like Google, like what are the troubles with kind of integrating Claude into their voice assistants, and why haven't we seen that already?
It's a good question. I think it probably depends on all sorts of different factors. I mean, I think for one thing, obviously, if you're a startup, you can just move extremely quickly and ship and iterate. But I mean, if you're a giant company with millions and millions of users, then you tend to move a bit more slowly. I think a lot of voice assistants, just speaking generally, aren't just voice assistants. Not just something you're chatting with. It needs to be integrated into some larger ecosystem of tools and other applications. You want to be able to like call something that accesses your calendar. Maybe you want to be able to turn the lights on and off in your house if it's like a physical assistant. And so getting really, really high reliability across tens, hundreds, thousands of different tools and applications that are integrated into these assistants, I think, is complicated. It requires work, and the expectations are very high. You don't want to disappoint your customers. So I think those kinds of integrations are complex, but it goes back to the importance of tool use and agency. Behind the scenes, a voice assistant maybe needs to be an agent, and maybe that's another reason to focus on those kinds of capabilities.
I think so. I wanted to ask you about something that your CEO, Dario Amodei, he wrote an op-ed in the New York Times that ran this morning. The title was "Don't Let AI Companies Off the Hook," which is funny enough. We were also considering naming the panel this. But no, I wanted to ask you about it because he argued against Trump's 10-year moratorium on states regulating AI. Why are you guys picking a fight with the Trump administration on this piece?
I mean, my understanding, if you read the op-ed, in many ways is saying positive things about a lot of the work that the administration has done in trying to make AI safer, prevent, say, authoritarian governments from getting access to AI. I think that this is really sort of just a question of states' rights. I think that like if one state wants to say regulate self-driving cars, like I think it makes sense for them to be able to do that. Maybe a self-driving car company tests their car in Arizona and then wants to deploy in Michigan. Maybe Michigan is worried that like that car doesn't know how to drive very well in the snow. Like that kind of use case, I think, I'm not an expert, I'm not a policy person, but I think that kind of thing could be blocked. And so I think that many folks, I don't think Dario is the most high-profile tech CEO to criticize the legislation, but yeah, I think that we really want to be able for governments to be able to move quickly to respond to AI. We think AI is changing very rapidly. We think states are one of our nation's laboratories for experimenting with different possible forms of engagement with industry, with regulation, and so we think that in order to sort of enable government to act with the speed that it needs to, given the speed that AI is moving, we think flexibility is great.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things he talks about is the need for transparency among AI model providers, and you guys call out, OpenAI and Google and yourselves as, having some transparent acts. What kind of transparency standards do you think should be put in place for AI labs?
Yeah, so we have a responsible scaling policy that says that we want to think carefully about what kinds of risks there might be from AI in the future. We want to evaluate pragmatically whether AI models really pose those risks or whether it's too soon, and then we want to sort of put in place various mitigations. I think something that you could ask of AI companies is just to transparently discuss what risks they're considering, what evaluations they've done, what kind of safety testing they've done before deploying their models, and what kind of mitigations they have in place. And at least that would, as kind of a bare minimum, would sort of invite the public, regulators, academics, other AI developers to sort of understand what the risks are, what evaluations have happened, and how robust the mitigations are. So I think something like, I'm not a policy person, I'm not a legislator, I don't have a specific policy proposal in mind, but I think that at least that kind of transparency seems like a good first step. And as you mentioned, I mean, Google and OpenAI are also have similar kinds of policies, but I think it would just be good sense if that was something that all advanced frontier AI developers were doing, and I think it would be reasonable for government to sort of ask us to do that and not let us off the hook.
Are you worried about retaliation from the Trump administration? I mean, they're an administration that notoriously has made things difficult for people who disagree with them.
I mean, we're trying to work closely with all, state governments, the federal government, et cetera. I mean, I'm not on the policy team. I don't have any detail, but I mean, we're generally engaged in sort of helping them to, advanced American interests when it comes to AI.
Got it. Well, I mean, on the topic of transparency, earlier this week, Reddit sued Anthropic. They claimed that you guys trained your AI models on Reddit's data, and you did not have authorization to do so, is what they claim. They say that in July 2024, Anthropic said you guys would stop training on Reddit and then continue to scrape their site over 100,000 times. Is that true?
I can't comment on new ongoing litigation. I can say that Anthropic puts a lot of effort into carefully obeying sort of requests in robots.txt and kind of industry standard practices.
Right, but I mean, I think at large, there's a lot of publishers have kind of brought similar claims against, Anthropic and OpenAI and Google and every company, and just said, like you guys are training these models and making billions of dollars. I think you guys are valued at $60 billion or more than that off of, these free kind of works from the internet. And I think Reddit is kind of making its own case that is not okay, and you have to pay them some money for that. I mean, do you think that generally speaking, people should be compensated for their, work when you train AI on it?
As I said, I think people can prevent Claude and Anthropic from scraping their data just via robots.txt. We respect that. I think that more generally, though, I think AI training is fair use. It's not copying, it's not reproducing data, and I think that's sort of the basis of legally why we think it's reasonable to train AI models on publicly available data that on the web that developers have not requested we avoid via robot.txt.
Right, but how can it be fair use if at the same time, like Reddit has like $60-70 million deals with Google and OpenAI, like the New York Times has deals with, Amazon, like if people are paying for the right to train this content, and then at the same time companies are taking it for free, how does that work? I mean, it seems like a
well, as I said, we obey robots.txt, so if we that's our policy. So if we've been asked not to scrape data, then that's what we do.
Got it. I mean, one thing from that lawsuit, and I'll kind of move off of it, but I mean, Reddit kind of came off kind of saying that like Anthropic has always been this kind of cautious cousin of the AI industry, so to speak. But they kind of argue that that's not exactly true. And I think that with the launch of Claude 4, a lot of people felt that you guys released a model that had a lot of safety concerns. There was some issues where Claude 4, in a one scenario, it blackmailed developer who tried to take it offline and replace it with another model. What do you say to people who think that Anthropic is not being as cautious as it used to be?
I don't think that anything has changed. I think that this goes back to what you said about transparency. You asked like what would we like to see? So the scenario that you mentioned was not a thing that happened in the world. It was like we're doing hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of examples of red teaming, and our team actually calls it weird teaming, where we try to find all sorts of weird scenarios where our model might do something problematic so that we can flag it and so that we can improve it in the future. And then we wrote a 120-page system card where we documented all kinds of these examples in order to encourage others to be transparent, to sort of show what their models are doing, and encourage others to do their own testing. So I think that we're going to continue to do that. But I think that, like, in being transparent, I think that opens us up to more criticism. We do a lot of other kinds of safety testing, like with respect to our responsible scaling policy as well. We have mitigations in place there. So that may open us up to more criticism, but I think we're going to keep doing that because we think people should understand how AI models are behaving, and they should be encouraged to sort of do their own tests on other providers as well.
Just the last question here. I mean, just, Anthropic's been up and going for a while now, a few years, and I'm just curious if, you started this to be kind of, put an eye on safety in AI. And have you seen things, from your competitors out in the wild that have kind of reaffirmed your mission for why you started Anthropic? If you said, yes, this is unsafe. This is why we need to exist.
Yeah, I mean, I think AI is getting more and more capable, and so I think safety risks are becoming more and more salient, more and more real. I think that I'm generally proud of us being transparent, of us being kind of the first to have something like a responsible scaling policy. I think a lot of our competitors want to do the right thing, but I think if we do something like that first, then it sets a standard. It's something that others can experiment with, iterate on, imitate, and I think we'll keep doing that. I'm happy that we've done it so far.
All right, that's our time. Jared, thank you so much.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you. All right.